many other...
This is right, Arab.
Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast. I am Caroline Malone, and in this bulletin, we'll get you updates of stories developing around the world. First, let's take a quick look at the headlines. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken meets the head of the World Health Organization, Tedros Ghebreyesus, and pledges his support to the UN's investigation in China into the origins of the coronavirus pandemic. The UK government announces that fully vaccinated people in the United States and European Union will be allowed to travel to England without having to quarantine on arrival. South Africa to send 1,500 troops to help neighbour Mozambique fight an Islamic State-linked insurgency. The deployment will cost South Africa about $66 million. A shallow earthquake of magnitude 8.2 strikes the Alaska Peninsula, prompting tsunami warnings for the US state of Hawaii and the US Pacific territory of Guam. As coronavirus cases surge in Tokyo, the Olympics organisers dismiss any link to the Games. At least 193 athletes, media and Olympic employees have now tested positive for the virus since the Games began. Well, Indian sport has a day to remember at the Tokyo Olympics. Badminton world champion PV Sindhu and the Indian men's hockey team storm into the quarterfinals. Archer Antandu Das knocks out 2012 Olympic champion Jin Ye-ho of Korea in the round of 32. It has been more than a year since the COVID pandemic began, but the questions about the origins of the coronavirus still remain unanswered. However, calls for a further probe into the origins of COVID have been mounting. In the latest, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with World Health Organization Chief Tedros Ghebreyesus to push for a fresh investigation into China, where the first COVID case was reported. It was a surprise meeting in Kuwait. Well, in a tweet, Blinken said that the United States supported the WHO's plans for additional studies into COVID origins. Well, the move was welcomed by the WHO chief, who said that it was important to understand the pandemic's origins. Well, Washington has been at the forefront of calling for a probe into the early COVID outbreak. In fact, former US President Donald Trump even cut the funding to the WHO as the issue gained steam. The decision was reversed by President Joe Biden. Well, a probe into COVID's origins is crucial to prevent future pandemics. But there is one hurdle: China. Beijing has opposed a second WHO-led probe. It accused the UN Health Agency of being disrespectful and arrogant towards science. Well, amid increasing pressure from the US, the WHO said that the second probe should also include an investigation into the Wuhan virology lab. Well, remember, there have been speculations over a possible coronavirus leak from the lab in the Chinese city of Wuhan, where the first coronavirus case was first reported in late 2019. Well, China denies a leak, but it still won't allow an independent probe into the lab. Earlier this year, a WHO team concluded an investigation into the origins of COVID in China. But the probe had several inconsistencies and only added the criticism of WHO's handling of the pandemic. Well, later the team of experts admitted that China had refused to provide them with raw data. Well, relaxing its COVID-19 regulations, England will now allow fully vaccinated visitors from the European Union and United States to arrive without quarantine. Well, travellers from the US and EU with approved vaccines will not have to quarantine upon their arrival into England from August 2. They will, however, still have to take a COVID-19 test before departure and after arrival in England.
England announced on Wednesday it will allow fully vaccinated visitors from the United States and the European Union to visit without needing to be quarantined. A huge and long-awaited boost, not just for those separated from loved ones, but for airlines and travel companies, which have been pushing for an easing of restrictions. British Transport Secretary Grant Shapps.
We've always said we need to move in line with what's going on in the real world. And obviously, people being vaccinated in Europe and in America now means that we can move to that next stage, which is allowing people to come here. And if they are double vaccinated, avoid having to quarantine as long as they've taken a test before they leave and after they arrive.
Britain's travel industry has criticized the government for being too slow to open up, saying it has squandered its lead in the global vaccine rollout and given the EU a head start in attracting tourists. The new rule, which takes effect on August 2nd, currently only applies to England, but is widely expected to be followed by the rest of Britain shortly. The government said international cruise sailings could also restart from England. Weighed down by cumulative pandemic losses of $4 billion, airlines such as British Airways and Britain's biggest airport, Heathrow, welcomed the move, but said more was needed to be done if the industry is to recover from a collapse in demand. Vaccinated travelers also still have to take a COVID-19 test before departure and shortly after arrival in England.
Well, in his latest address on state-run television, North Korean leader Kim Jongun acknowledged the struggle of his country's strict and prolonged lockdown. He said the prolonged lockdowns have forced the country to face hardships that are no less harsh than a wartime situation.
North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has made new comments on the country's fight against the coronavirus pandemic, acknowledging the struggle of its strict and prolonged lockdown. In a video aired by North Korea's state-run television, the leader says that the difficulties and hardship caused by the world health crisis, quote, are no less harsh for us than those in the wartime situation. He was making the speech to a veterans conference marking the 68th anniversary of the Korean War's armistice. While acknowledging the difficulty, he also said this generation will be victorious over COVID, just as the previous generation was victorious during the war. In June, Kim publicly reprimanded several top party officials for failures in the battle against COVID that he said put the country at risk, according to state media. He reportedly said at the time that the failings had created a major crisis.
Well, an enormous wildfire in southern Turkey has spread to the town of Manavgat. Strong winds fueled the flames, prompting a massive evacuation drive from the town. Well, videos emerging from the area show residents running for their cars as smoke engulfs the streets. Thick black smoke can be seen rising from the area. Manavgat Mayor Sukri Sozan says that flames reach as far as the town centre. And Antalya Mayor Muhittin Bocek said that the fire had begun at 4 different points. Unprecedented winds are fueling the inferno that's spreading rapidly in the region. Meanwhile, authorities have launched a probe into the cause of the blaze. President Erdogan hopes that the fire is extinguished without any casualty.
We hope that we will put out this fire without any casualties. We hope to put out the fire that has spread to a wide area as soon as possible. All aspects of the incident will be investigated and all kind of support will be provided to our citizens who suffered damage from the fire.
Well, Turkey's disaster response force, AFAD, has been summoned to put out the massive fire. Officials say that a firefighting plane, 19 helicopters, 108 vehicles and 400 personnel are working to douse the flames. Well, earlier this month, flash floods in the Black Sea provinces of Rize and Artvin damaged homes and property. The floods killed 6 people in Rize, according to AFAD. Well, any possible cause of the wildfire is yet to be ascertained. South Africa has sent almost 1,500 troops to Mozambique. This is to help the country battle terrorists and extremists wreaking havoc in the north. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has authorised the deployment. The troops will remain in Mozambique for 3 months, that is until October. This step is part of a deal that was signed by 16 nations of the South African Development Community in June this year. The operation is likely to cost more than $66 million. South Africa is not the first country which has dispatched troops to Mozambique. Botswana and Rwanda had earlier stepped up to send aid. Well, Mozambique President Filipe Nyusi has been resisting foreign intervention. However, this time around, he's approved and lauded the military mobilization from African countries.
At the crucial moment of the struggle of the Mozambican people against aggression which is waged against us by terrorist groups, and in the framework of regional solidarity, we are receiving support from some foreign partners. I also heard some speeches in the assembly or from certain commentators who were complaining that Mozambique did not accept international support. But as I said, we need careful consideration.
Well, over the past year, attacks have escalated in northern Mozambique. It's fueled fears that violence could spill over into neighbouring countries. According to data compiled by the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, more than 3,000 people have been killed in the Cabo Delgado region. More than 800,000 people have been displaced. The recent incidents of violence have disrupted major gas exploration projects. On July 12, the European Union formally established a military mission for Mozambique. This is to help train armed forces battling the extremist elements. WION correspondent Kalden Omdgu has this report from Johannesburg. Let's listen in.
South Africa has deployed 1,495 members of the South African National Defence Force to Mozambique to combat terrorism and violent extremists which affected the Cabo Delgado province. South Africa will spend just over 984 million rand on the deployment of the SANDF members. This amount was confirmed by President Cyril Ramaphosa, who wrote to Parliament informing that he had authorized the deployment of soldiers. Thousands of people have been displaced in Mozambique's Cabo Delgado. The SANDF members will be stationed in Mozambique until 15th October 2021. Meanwhile, South Africa isn't the only country sending soldiers to Mozambique. The 16-member Southern African Development Community, that is the SADC, had agreed last month to send troops to Mozambique's insurgent hit Cabo Delgado province. This is Kalden Omdgu from Johannesburg, South Africa. For WION, World is One.
Well, a day after an armed man robbed famed Parisian jeweller Xiaomei and stole jewellery worth nearly $2 million, the French police say they've recovered most of the jewellery stolen and has detained 2 suspects. CCTV images from the scene show a man identified as the suspected robber in a grey suit. He later fled the scene on a stand-up scooter.
French authorities on Wednesday detained 2 suspects over a heist at a high-end Perus boutique by an armed robber who fled the scene on an electric scooter, according to local media. Local broadcaster BFM TV reported French authorities had recovered most of the $2 million worth of jewelry stolen from a Xiaomei store in central Paris. Citing sources close to the investigation, BFM TV said 2 suspects were detained at a motorway rest area near the city of Metz, close to the French border with Germany. There was no immediate confirmation from French police. A CCTV image from the scene showed a man, identified by the broadcaster as the suspected robber, in a grey suit inside the store. Local media reported he calmly presented himself to staff as a customer and asked to view some jewelry, before pulling out a handgun, grabbing the jewels, and leaving the store. Another CCTV image broadcast by BFM TV showed what looked like the same man riding a stand-up electric scooter down the street with a white bag hanging from the handlebar of the scooter. Xiaomei is one of France's oldest jewelry brands and is owned by luxury goods conglomerate LVMH.
Well, after weeks of uncertainty, Peru has sworn in its 5th president in 2 years. Pedro Castillo, a leftist rural school teacher, has become the newly elected head of state. The 51-year-old stood through a bitterly divisive presidential runoff, with just 44,000 more votes from his right-wing opponent. Castillo became the first president in decades with no ties to political or economic elite. The swearing-in ceremony was attended by Spanish King Felipe VI, former Bolivian President Evo Morales, and the United States Education Secretary.
A person who belongs to, as many Peruvians do, to sectors that have been oppressed for centuries. It is the first time a political party formed in the country's interior wins the elections democratically, and that a teacher, specifically a rural teacher, is elected constitutional president of the republic. It is difficult to express the high honor this means to me right now.
Well, the expectations from the new leaders are extremely high because the newly elected leader enters the office with a lengthy to-do list: economic stability, an end to corruption, tame the COVID-19 pandemic, and finally a reformed constitution. This has spooked the investors and wealthier Peruvians, as the new government intends to increase taxes on mining and divert funds to reforming health and education sectors. It's been 200 years since Peru declared independence from Spain, but Castillo says that colonial wounds still run deep in the country. In a symbolic gesture, Castillo and the First Family has decided not to live in Lima's government palace. In Peru, the presidential house is known as the House of Pizarro, which is named after a Spanish conqueror. It has been decided that the palace will be handed over to the Culture Ministry soon. Well, the capital city of Lima witnessed hundreds of supporters of Pedro Castillo out on the streets celebrating. Most seem thrilled to see a president who comes from a common rural family.
It is the beginning of a democratic history where the people for the first time are going to help shape this government.
But some people in Peru are not happy with the newly elected government. Some took to the streets denying accepting Castillo as the president. They called him a product of electoral fraud. Well, let's listen in.
I'm here to fight for my rights. They have just imposed a de facto precedent on us, a product of electoral fraud, whom we do not recognize. And all of us present here agree to use our right to insurgency.
Congratulatory messages poured in from neighbouring countries of Chile and Peru. Castillo's counterparts hope to strengthen ties within the South American countries.
We'll follow closely and with affection the evolution of Peru's constitution, and we wish President Castillo the best of luck. Because if President Castillo does well, Peru does well, and if Peru does well, we all do well.
Well, with global temperatures increasing, experimental green housing projects are coming up in several cities across the world. In China's southwestern Chengdu city, Qiyi City Forest Garden has been overrun by its plants, and residents describe living in such green spaces as healthy and positive.
This is Chengdu, a Chinese megacity that promised inhabitants life in a vertical forest. With luxurious plants and greenery in their balconies and all around.
This place is called Qiyi City Forest Garden, which gives us exactly that feeling. We have our own yard and create our own garden, so we can live very comfortably here. That's why we choose this place.
The Qiyi City Forest Garden in Chengdu, which has 8 towers, opened in 2018. Today, some parts of it look like a treehouse perched within a tropical forest, while other places look overrun by their own vegetation. It's like a jungle invading and bursting off their terraces.
I think it's quite good. The air is pretty good and much better than my old houses. The air is good when you wake up in the morning, and the green trees are good for us elderly people. They are good for our eyes.
The location is really good and traffic is very convenient. There's a well-developed system of shopping and everything you need, so we can both live and work here.
With increasing global temperatures and harsh impacts of climate change, green initiatives are running wild in cities around the world. and the pandemic has only amplified the need for nature in urban areas. Since the start of the 21st century, replanting initiatives have sprouted as urban development goals have shifted. According to the French Agency for Ecological Transition, with green initiatives in 9 cities across the world, Chengdu, Medellin, Riyadh, Copenhagen, Milan, New York, Singapore, Basel and Hong Kong, temperatures during the warmest month can be reduced by 3.6 to 11.3 degrees Celsius at the hottest time of the day in the so-called street canyons. Green spaces have had impacts on people's health too. According to Bath University's health department, green spaces have been shown to improve well-being by reducing stress, anxiety and depression, improving attention and focus, better physical health and managing post-traumatic stress disorder. So are all urban replanting projects worthwhile? Economist and urban planner Jean Henschen says that in addition to lowering temperature, it should also preserve biodiversity, improve well-being and raise awareness, and also be appealing to residents and suitable for its social context. The Key City Forest Garden in Chengdu in China is one such experimental greenhousing project to transform a city full of high-rise buildings from grey to green by uprooting the urban jungles. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
While there are many golf courses in Kashmir, the region has not yet produced elite-level players, perhaps because there were no golf academies to train aspiring golfers until now. The Jammu and Kashmir administration has come forward to fill the void, and a golf academy was inaugurated by the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir, Manoj Sinha. Students at government schools are now encouraged to pursue the sport.
Golf has always been viewed as a sport for the elites.
Good ball.
Access to equipment and courses is difficult for most people anywhere in the world. The situation in Kashmir Valley is no different. But now the state administration wants more youngsters to take up the sport by making it accessible and provide training to develop golfers who will take up the sport as a career option. The state administration is now focusing on developing sports infrastructure across the region by organizing sports events and providing coaching to youngsters. The Golf Academy in Kashmir has taken 50 students, 25 girls and 25 boys in its first batch. It's the first such initiative taken by the state to promote golf among the youth.
Golf is not new to Kashmir. It has been played since...
Golf is not new to Kashmir. It's been here since the 19th century and quite a few number of people have taken liking to this sport. We put up a proposal to start this academy. The LG pushed us to do so. And we have Amandeep Johar, renowned golfer, who is helping. In total, 25 boys and 25 girls have been taken in the first batch. Our endeavor is to train these kids. We are bearing all the costs of the training. We are hoping to see them on international platforms, and in the future, we will take more students.
The students are thrilled about taking up the sport, especially girls who realize the wonderful opportunities the future can offer.
I had no idea about it earlier, but I am extremely happy about this opportunity which we have got by the help of LG of Kashmir. Now our dream is to become professional like our coaches, and we are extremely happy about this opportunity. It was called the Game of Royals. We didn't have the concept that we will be able to play this game. We are extremely happy, especially all the girls.
We are very happy. This is a very great opportunity for the students. We are here. It's a very good experience with this game because this game was telling that this is the royal game. Only the rich people can afford this. But no, with the support of department and other institutions, they made this possible that we are here for this game. And now they provide us everything free of cost. And I wish I could make this game my career.
At least 17 national-level sports events will be held in Jammu and Kashmir alone this year. More than 17 lakh children are expected to take part in different competitions. providing them a platform to showcase their talent at a much bigger platform.
Golf was always considered to be the game of elite, but in Kashmir Valley, the students from government schools are able to play this sport and become professional golfers. The idea is to make this game accessible to the youth of Kashmir Valley. With video journalist Perus, Idris Lone for WION World is One.
That's a wrap on this edition of WION Live Broadcast. For more global news and updates, stay tuned to WION World is One.
This is right, Arab.